thank you for coming. This is the Lancaster City Council meeting. City Clerk?
Councilmember Authority Member Johnson. Present. Mann.
Present.
Smith. Vice Mayor, Vice Chair Christ.
Present.
Mayor Chair Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Move to excuse Smith.
I'll second that.
Voice. Aye.
Aye.
Call to order the Housing Authority meeting. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Authority Member Harvey. Present. Mann.
Present.
Smith. Vice Chair Christ.
Present.
Chair Zetto.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Move to excuse Smith.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Okay, today the invocation is going to be with Pastor, I'm going to totally butcher this name, you have to forgive me, Dharmi Zul Odu, Redeemed Christian Church.
I don't believe he's here.
Now, how can you bail on doing the invocation? Send her a letter, a very firm one. And the Pledge of Allegiance today is going to be by Alan Nero. Alan Nero is the grandson of the late Herb Nero, who was a very good friend of mine and had his own television station.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job. Actually, I want you to come give us lessons. It's much better than the council has done. Okay, we're going to go right into the DCFS presentation. Is that the plan?
Yes, that's first on the agenda, and however you want to handle it, they're prepared to make a presentation.
Okay. What we've asked DCFS to do is to come in and help us understand what is being done differently now that Gabriel has died and from all accounts should not have. And I want it clear that we are not here to crucify the social workers involved. I believe from the social workers that I've met in that department that they are loving people who came into this profession to protect children. I also believe that every indication is the system itself is seriously flawed. I think that there are people that are accountable for how that system's flawed. I think that it goes beyond just the department. I think county council has a lot of the responsibility to bear. And I would like to hear from them. How do we know that in the city of Lancaster, one, there's not going to be excessive enforcement, meaning a simple solution is every time there's a complaint, just take the kids. Now, understand what that entails. Every time you do that to a child, you inflict psychological damage onto him that sometimes lasts a lifetime. It is a very difficult decision to make when to take a child out of the home, because you know when you do, you are inflicting damage. And it's a hard decision for them to make. But we also see a situation where they could do better, and we want to know what they're going to do, that we know that at least in the city of Lancaster, our children are going to be safe. And with that, I'm sorry, I don't have who's... Okay.
Brandon Nichols. I'm a Senior Deputy Director with the Department of Children and Family Services.
Thank you.
I appreciate you inviting us up here to talk to you, to talk to the community. I want to say before we get into the questions of what we're doing to improve our services in the community, I just want to pause a second and say that the death of that child was tragic. It eats at my heart, it eats at the heart of our social workers, and I appreciate you acknowledging their commitment to the job and the hard work they do for children. And I do want to say, before I go into our brief presentation, after which I'll be happy to answer questions, nothing we say here tonight is going to make that death okay. We realize that that child could have been saved. There is a failure in the system, and that child's death could have been prevented. So with that, I want to introduce my companions here, Scott Miller, Senior Deputy County Counsel, Mariam Fatimi, Deputy Director with the Department of Children and Family Services. It is her offices that serve this community, Lancaster and Palmdale.
Her name again, please?
Mariam Fatimi. So with that, we have a quick PowerPoint. This will give an overview of our department's operations, both across the county and within this community. And at the end of that, we have a brief discussion of some of our major reforms. As you can see, we received 202,198 calls to the hotline. The volume in this county is an issue. It is an issue that we struggle with, and in comparison to other jurisdictions, we are much, much larger. And that volume itself creates its own problems and its own challenges. Of those 202,198 calls, 181,827 resulted in referrals. That means that there was some action that we had to take in response. Of those referrals, 154,930 required an in-person response. We sent a person out to view a child, out to meet with a family, 154,930 times. If we could go to the next slide. Currently, in calendar year 2012, we had 35,195 children under our care. Of those children, 13,945 received services in their own homes. They remained with their families. 21,250 were removed from their homes, and you can see that our preference is placement with relatives. Of that number, the large majority was placed with relatives. That is always our first choice. If we could go to the next slide. This is a brief overview of our staffing county-wide. We have 6,720 staff. Of those staff, 2,091 are social workers, and about 400 are supervising social workers. This is a view of our services here in this community. We have 12,322 children that we served in this area. Lancaster was 6,532. We have 947 average investigations per month in this area. We can go to the next one. Here is our complement of staff in this area, 180 social workers and 33 supervisors. The Lancaster office, 94 social workers, 16 supervisors. Next slide. So you asked, what are we going to do to prevent a tragedy like this in the future? And that is a question we ask ourselves almost every day. We have meetings on it regularly, and we have been asking it since each of us came to the department. One of the major initiatives that we've undertaken is the development of a strategic plan. The department had not had a strategic plan for years, and we sat down with our managers, with the community, with other stakeholders to develop 33 key initiatives that we believe will improve our services, both countywide and here within the community. Those improvements center around the bullet points you see here. But it is to emphasize child-centered practice, to better engage families so we can make that kind of difficult balancing decision, not based on just fear or factors other than an assessment of how a family and a child interact in their home and whether services can be offered to safely maintain children in their homes. Go to the next slide. We have reorganized our department to provide greater accountability over the two functions of the department. The department has two primary functions. One is investigation of allegations of abuse or neglect, and the other is to provide services to ameliorate the need to maintain children out of their homes or to maintain contact with a family, to allow them to return back to the community on their own with appropriate supports. Those functions in the past have been commingled under a single manager, we have divided them. So now we will have one manager in each area responsible for just the investigative piece, and one manager in each area responsible for the back-end piece. That way, when there's a problem, we can call one person and say, how come this happened under your watch? Next slide. Critical thinking, common sense, a desire to dig deeper, to conduct complete investigations, that is the piece that is our primary focus. Our staff need better training, both before they come to the department and while they're at the department. There is no question about that. They're good intentioned. They need support. To provide that, we have met with a consortium of local universities to completely revamp how they provide training to our staff, both before they come to the department and once they're in the department. Next slide. Redoing the policy manual is another significant initiative that we've undertaken. Our policy manual looks like a phone book, and it has been commented that no one could know all of the details in that phone book. No staff person could be familiar, forward to back, with every requirement, every comma, every form. It was not providing the support and guidance to our staff that they need to perform their duties. So we have engaged an outside consultant to completely revise our policy. And it is a difficult undertaking. We cannot land the plane, get off, rebuild it, and then take it off. We have to fly the plane and rebuild it in the air at the same time. So we have brought in outside resources. They are going to completely revise our entire body of policy, and they are going to update it. They are going to put it on the web for us, for the communities, so the community can see what our policy looks like. It will be searchable and much more functional, but importantly, it will provide guidance and support to staff on how they are supposed to be doing their jobs. So I wanted to close with some important phone numbers, because I think you observed, and I agree, that it takes a community, and we need the community to interact with us and to let us know when children are in need of help, to let us know what resources are available, and to volunteer and serve as foster parents for when children can't safely remain in their homes. And these are the numbers to help us do that. The Public Inquiry Office, should people have questions, is 213-351-5602. Our Child Protection Hotline, where people can report concerns about a child's safety, and I encourage, notwithstanding this tragic case, the community to engage us when they have concerns. And that number is 800-540-4000. And our Resource Family Recruitment number, where people can volunteer to foster and adopt children in need of a good home or in need of a safe placement temporarily while their family receives services so that they can receive their children back, is 888-811-1121. And that is my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Nichols, what specifically is DCFS going to do to make sure that what happened to Gabriel doesn't happen again? You know, we've heard a lot of goals, lofty goals, but what specifically will be done?
I don't know what you mean when you say specifics. We are revising our policy manual. That will help prevent things like Gabriel, tragedies like that. We have a new manager who is coming to this area. She is one of our best, and your existing manager in this area is also one of our best. Today, the Board of Supervisors, the agency that has direct oversight over us, voted to create a blue ribbon panel. There will be like the panel that recently issued recommendations for jail reform. They will examine our operations and come up with direct action plans to improve our services both across the county in this community.
Any dates in mind? When is any of this going to happen?
Yes, that vote was today. The recommendations from that panel are due before the end of the year, I believe. The work I discussed briefly in the PowerPoint is ongoing. We are already starting to see some of those objectives come to fruition and be implemented.
When's the training going to occur?
Training is occurring now. It is, as I mentioned, we have to rebuild the plane while we fly it. So we do have training that is needed today, right now. We are in negotiations with the consortium of universities to revamp our training. I do not know the due date of that, but I believe that it is within a year. We will have entirely new training for staff.
Mr. Nichols, while I can appreciate all these statistics that you've put in front of us, there's only one number right now that I think this community is concerned with, and that's the one that got by you, Gabriel.
Yes, I'm not here.
I understand that you've developed a strategic plan and you've got 33 key initiatives, but unless they're robust, they mean nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to tell you that we are going to look at that case, draw lessons learned, create corrective action plans, and all of that is true, but I'm hesitant because I don't want to make it sound like any of that will make Gabriel okay. That was a tragedy, and I don't want to say we're going to take care of it by making subsequent corrective efforts. We are. We continue to try to improve our systems, our services to families. What we have learned from Gabriel will impact that. But I'm hesitant to draw connections between Gabriel and specific actions because I don't want to make it seem like it was an okay thing.
But when you take and you put 4 people that were a part of this process, and you put them on desk duty, so you've exacerbated the numbers, you've compounded the problem. What do you see in the near future within the next 30 to 60 days that's going to happen that's going to correct that problem?
We are conducting a personnel investigation of the staff involved in Gabriel's case. We hope to have that investigation completed. I believe the projected due date is July 8th, and we will take, if it's appropriate, disciplinary action with the staff involved, depending on what the investigation discovers. I'm hesitant to talk about the particulars of that investigation because it is ongoing.
No, and I understand that, and I can appreciate that. But I think we all go back to the old adage that it takes a village to raise a child. But in this case, I think we've all failed. We failed Gabriel, and we failed his siblings because I understand his siblings had been removed from the home. They're in protective custody. What's happening with them now? Is there counseling being given?
The details, our lawyer, Scott Miller, the details of any services we're providing to a family are confidential under law. I've been advised, and I believe it's true, that it is a misdemeanor for me to discuss those details.
Let's deal with that. You have a system where it is a crime to put the light of day on it. You have a system that nobody is allowed to talk about what happens in those individual cases under penalty of imprisonment. How is that possible in America? That you have this incredible power to rip families apart, or in Gabriel's case, not rip them apart, and yet it is a crime for us to look at it. And it seems to me that, and we'll talk about county council in a moment, it seems to me that your department should be the one screaming to Sacramento to change that law. But the truth is you lobby for it. Isn't that true?
I don't know that we lobbied for it. I think that the decision was made in Sacramento, and you're correct in that. There are some benefits to that law. Families are entitled to privacy. We do not want to be discussing their business in the streets. It is delicate. They are personal details. Nevertheless, there have been changes in the law recently, particularly when a child dies, that allows for some release of information. In this case particularly, there is information we can release. We have released it. I brought it with me tonight. I'll be happy to share it with your council before I leave. There are also mechanisms to open case files. Some of the press, I believe in this room, have started those procedures to request opening of Gabriel's file. That requires a court order. We are not opposing those requests, and we assist the press in facilitating them filing those documents. But it does require a court order, and absent that court order, unfortunately, I can't discuss it.
Isn't it also true that your department does not allow either the parent or the parent's lawyer to tape record the interviews that the social workers conduct? Isn't that true?
I don't know if that's true or not.
I can tell you with absolute certainty it is. And in fact, if the parent insists upon it, the interview is concluded, and it is reported to the court that the parent refused to cooperate. Now, my question to you is, why isn't the social worker required to tape record every interview? And now when we have cases like Gabriel, it is not a question of he said or she said. It becomes a question of, here's the tape, here's what was said, this is why I did this action or did not do this action.
Well, that's what's so great about the court process, because the parent and their lawyer have an opportunity to come down and explain directly to the court, eye to eye with the judge, this is what I said, this is what I mean, this is why I said it, and the judge has the ability to weigh the credibility of the social worker and the parent.
Aren't you embarrassed with something as fatuous as that? For heaven's sakes, we are talking about a department where social workers have been in my office, and they tell me that they are required to change their reports on almost a weekly basis. Almost a weekly basis. And it goes from county council to the supervisor supervisor sometime, and nobody has to sign that report except the social worker. And you have a department full of social workers that are the most stressed out people alive. Your health, the health crisis within your department is an abomination. You would agree with that, wouldn't you?
Our social workers are absolutely stressed. An incident like this impacts the whole office. We offer them assistive services because they start to have breakdowns. They start to wring their hands and hug each other. A death like this impacts them in ways I can't explain. You just have to see their faces.
No, I have seen their faces, and what they tell me is you put them on desk duty, which means they are required to sit at a desk and do absolutely nothing. They come into work, and they sit there while their coworkers walk by staring at them. That is a supportive environment you're trying to tell this community you've provided? I have talked to those people myself, and that is what they tell me they do. And when they walk into my office, they're like this. And they are like that not just because of Gabriel. They are like that because of your lack of support for them. Isn't that true? Isn't it true they're on desk duty?
There are staff on desk duty that has been reported in the paper. It is not due to a lack of support. We offer them and we offer the office support. But like when there is a law enforcement involved shooting, we need to take immediate steps to make sure that everybody is safe until we can investigate the facts underlying the shooting, or in this case underlying a fatality, to ensure that our staff acted appropriately on this case and will act appropriately with other children out in the community.
Then why don't you let them go home while the investigation takes place rather than compound the problem? Because what I'm afraid is going to happen, I'm afraid you're going to scapegoat those people. I think that what's going down is we're going to get a report how they were just abominable in how they conducted this investigation. And that may or may not be true, but what I also know to be true beyond any doubt, and I think you will agree with this, your department is underfunded, understaffed, and underloved. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I agree with all that last stuff. I don't know that I agree with the scapegoating part, and that is why we conduct an investigation and going back to...
Then let them go home.
That is why it takes time.
Then let them go home. Recognize that these people are stressed out to the max. And what they need is your support, not your condemnation. And when you make them sit at that desk with absolutely nothing to do and having their peers literally being put in a situation to treat them as if they're a pariah, you are compounding the stress. And but let me go on a little bit. I think I've made that clear to you, and hopefully you might take some corrective action. There have been members of your department that have come to me and said they want to come forward. They want to talk about what is going on between county council and the supervisors of DCSF, or however, DCSF, yeah. FS? How do you say it?
CFS.
I always get those letters mixed up. They want to come forward. They would like to publicly reveal things like, isn't it also true that the thing they hear from the day they come to work is we speak with one voice? The department speaks with one voice. You've heard that, haven't you?
I have not, and I will say that that is not true. I attend meetings regularly where there is a diversity of opinion, sometimes...
Publicly?
Even argument.
Publicly?
I have seen a diversity of opinion publicly, yes.
I have never seen that.
Let me say, if you have staff from our department coming to you saying, I need to tell somebody something, they should contact me.
What they tell me is they will be retaliated against. And what I'm asking you is, will you go to the Board of Supervisors and ask them to guarantee there will be absolutely no retaliation, that there will be an ombudsman they can go to if there is even a hint of it, so that this Blue Ribbon Committee can actually investigate something in a meaningful way? Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely. I would
When will
recommend
you
the Board
do
of
it?
Supervisors, no retaliation for anybody that has something
No,
important to say.
not just the words, that the Board of Supervisors put in place a system that will guarantee these people they will not be retaliated against. And what I'm asking you is, when will you go to the Board of Supervisors and ask them to do that?
I don't know that there's not a system in place today to guarantee that.
Why don't you
I will
know?
say today,
You're second in command. Why
front
don't you
of-
know?
In front of these cameras in this community, absolutely, staff should be free to tell managers, to tell you, to tell people like me that there are problems in the department and not fear for retaliation. I will make that recommendation right now in front of the
That's
camera.
not what I asked you to do. What I asked you to do is ask the supervisors to put in place a system that will guarantee they are protected when they come forward. And what I'm asking you is, when will you ask the Board of Supervisors to do that?
I don't exactly know what that means, but I am telling you now,
I understand.
staff can tell us that there are problems in the department today and not be retaliated against. They should come to me. They should come to you today
They have
and tell
come
us
to
what the
me.
issues are. And you should refer them to me so that we can hear the issues and act on them.
I-
And I will tell the Board of Supervisors that that is something that should happen.
One of them went out the back door today. Isn't that right, Mark? You escorted him out the back door because he was afraid you might see him.
And I will say that the county has an elaborate, well-resourced mechanism for raising complaints and issues, both about programs and for retaliation today. It is staffed by lawyers and experts. There are forums. It is easily accessible to all of our staff. All of our staff have had training on it. And so in part when you say develop a mechanism, that's the part I don't understand, because I believe we have those mechanisms today, but I will confirm them when I am done with this meeting.
Let me tell you that your employees don't have any faith in it. Didn't he ask to be escorted out the back so they wouldn't know who he was?
Yes, about half hour ago.
Yes.
Okay, let me go on. Let me go on.
Not the mechanism, I think. It is the faith of the employees, and that's why I'm standing here now saying, send them to me, I will hear them out, and I will make sure that they are not retaliated against. But do not sit on information and not distribute it to the people who can act on it and make a difference.
I see that problem, and we have that problem. We have significant documentation that we're in a quandary. What do we do with it? We've been asked to keep it confidential. I don't know what to do with it. But let me proceed. What I saw, we'll go back to it.
Just one second.
Good.
If you have relevant information and it sits on your desk, it does not help us. It
I
does
know.
not help
I
children like
agree.
Gabriel. It doesn't help the community. We have to get it to the hands of people that
I
can
agree.
consider it.
I agree. What I'm telling you is we're in a quandary what to do with it. Because these people really are afraid. Whether it's a justified fear or an unjustified fear. You read it? Any doubt it's valid? You know, we ourselves have been involved in cases where we have seen records altered. We have seen doctors' opinions being withheld. We have seen very questionable behavior. And what we have seen is that is because you're allowing the prosecution arm to dictate to the investigation arm. If the district attorney's office was allowed to control the sheriff's department, we would not have freedoms in this country. Separating those two offices, everybody knows, is critical to the well-being of our country. And you seem to get that the supervision of the in-family services should be separate from the investigation. Why is county council allowed to be so involved in every single aspect? He stands behind you and whispers in your ear, and that is the same person that prosecutes the cases against the parents when they take the kids. Don't you think that department should be separated?
A couple of points on that. We take falsification as a cardinal sin within the department. We terminate staff when we find
Anybody get terminated on that case?
that they have falsified documents.
No, they don't falsify it. They get somebody else to falsify it.
If we discover falsification, we take it very seriously. But as to your point about county council, it is a system that the legislature has set up. The nature of our system, when we cannot work cooperatively with a family, is that we have to go to the juvenile court and use the authority of that court to either remove a child from that family or to order parents into services that they are, at the time, reluctant to engage in. By going to court, the very nature of that venue, as you know, is a litigious, adversarial.
I've never seen more lawyers in my life. You know, everybody, every child, every adult, there's more lawyers in those cases than you can imagine.
I agree.
I think it's a system designed to just keep us employed, to tell you the truth.
Too many lawyers. I could totally agree with you. Too many lawyers there and elsewhere. But the truth is, the legislature has decided...
Careful with that elsewhere business.
I am a lawyer. You're a lawyer. I have great respect for lawyers, but we complicate things. When social workers and parents talk, they talk in a different way than when a social worker and their lawyer and a parent and their lawyer talk. All of a sudden, the social worker and the parent get quiet, and the lawyers just fight. It is in our nature. We're doing pretty good right now, but we do. We get our backs up, and we like to fight. Because sometimes a social worker and a parent cannot work cooperatively, and a child is at risk as a result, we have no choice but to go to court and involve the lawyers. The nature of our system and the nature of our operation is very heavily driven by statute and regulation and the court process, and we need counsel to navigate that process because it is difficult, and social workers are not experts on laws.
Neither are deputies. And there is a separation between the district attorney's office and the sheriff's department. And those deputies do not report to the district attorney in any way. But what I have seen, at least in the Antelope Valley with your department, is that county council is unquestionably in charge and unquestionably directing how things get written, how investigations, and I've seen them actually go head-to-head a little bit with the social workers who didn't want to go along. You know, would you agree that the possibility exists?
I can't speak to your personal appearances, and I can agree that there is that possibility, but I will tell you that structurally, like the district attorney and the sheriff's office, we are separate departments, we have separate chains of authority, we answer to different bosses, and we do get into disagreements sometimes. But at the end of the day, when our social worker needs guidance on whether there are legal grounds to go to court and file a petition, they have no choice but to turn their attorneys, and we are thankful that those attorneys are there to assist us.
Let me ask you this. Do the supervisors have the ability to direct the social workers in how the report is prepared?
The supervisors do have the ability to give guidance and counsel to their staff. They do not have the ability to change facts. So if what you're asking...
That's not what I asked you, was it?
Well, I don't know what you're asking.
Okay, let me give you an example.
And that's why I'm parsing it out.
Okay.
They cannot direct a change in facts. What they can say is, report needs to be in a certain time. Report needs to be in a different format. I think you need to look at this issue. It's not explored enough. You need to go back out and maybe ask some of these questions. It is our supervisor's responsibility to ensure the thoroughness of those reports, the accuracy of those reports, and they do that. But they don't say, hide this fact, change that detail.
Let me give you an example of what was reported to me in just one case, where a father comes home and finds out that the 9-year-old had shot the 5-year-old with a BB gun. He was a little bit upset. When the 9-year-old did that, he ran to a neighbor because he knew he was in big trouble. When he came home, this is how the social worker initially wrote it, the father spanked him with a belt. And we can go into that debate all day long about whether or not it's appropriate or not appropriate, but I can tell you that my father had a very thick belt. And I can understand why he used it. In any event, that report gets changed, meaning the social worker is directed to write it this way. Father beats the 9-year-old with a belt. the 9-year-old was reported at a neighbor's house hiding in fear of a beating. And somehow nobody mentioned what the 9-year-old had done. That continually happens, where because of an influence of, and this is what they tell me, the influence of the county council in how these things are written, that it's not actually a lie, but it's clearly a different story. Facts that exonerate are clearly left out. And we hear that this happens frequently. And I just want you to be open to the possibility that there is a system that we could put in place that would make people more accountable for that. Isn't there?
I appreciate you raising these issues. It's difficult for me to speculate what happened in that particular case, what was written, what the facts were.
And it's a secret. We go to jail if we find out too much, right?
It's not a secret to me. And if you hear those things, like I said before, bring them to my attention.
Oh, we do. We've got a book. I mean, it's this thick.
But I have the authority to review them and to act on them. And if that's happening, it's an issue I take very seriously. In part because of my experience as a lawyer, I understand the relationship between lawyers and social workers.
Okay, so what specifically will you do to make this so it doesn't ever happen again?
Well, it's hard to speculate without seeing exactly what's going on. But that's why I'm saying, if you have information, I urge you to please share it with me so that I can take a look at it.
As soon as we can convince these people that they're safe, we will.
And I'd be happy to meet with them myself. If that would help.
I think we might want to press there with some protections. But again, I come back to one thing. It's very simple. Tape record the interviews. And then you, not so anybody else necessarily can hear them, so you can listen to the interview and look at the report and see if it's accurate.
With all due respect, I believe that there's never just one easy answer to questions like this. I don't think tape recording interviews necessarily solves the problem that we're dealing with. There may be an issue.
Might help, though, right?
I want to dig into it. It may have negative consequences, too, though. When you're a social worker, asked to go into someone's house in the middle of the night and asked to talk to a child, have you been touched by your parent? Does somebody hit you? To set a tape recorder down on the table and say, I'm recording everything you say, may change the dynamic between that social worker and the person they're interviewing. And I don't know today, standing at this podium, that I can agree it's a good idea. What I will agree with is I'm happy to talk about it, and it would help me to talk about it if I could see some of the places and some of the actual facts where it has resulted in an injustice.
Well, what we know from the Sheriff's Department, and I'm sure, is the captain here? Where'd the captain? They sent you to take the heat, right? Your deputies are able to tape, and no one knows they're taping them, right? Have you found it in any way to inhibit the investigatory abilities?
In certain instances, in suspect interviews, it may prevent some suspects from speaking with us.
Is it the general practice to tape record them?
And I would be happy to discuss that issue with you. I'm just saying today, at this podium, based on our brief exchange, I can't tell you I think it's a good idea.
So when are we going to discuss it?
I'm available at your convenience.
Okay. I mean, you're willing to look at it, see if we can move in that direction.
Not only am I willing, I encourage you to share that information with you, with me. If you think it's important and you think there is injustice as a result, absolutely, I want to meet with you.
We've got a story to tell. Thank you. Any other questions?
I'd like to thank your staff for their courtesy. They were very nice in accommodating us with the PowerPoint. They gave me water. They saved us some nice chairs. It makes something like this...
Bearable?
Well, bearable's a little strong, but comfortable.
You know, again, I want to reiterate, most of my experience with the social workers has been nothing but positive. I really do think, I also think, though, that they suffer from vicarious victimization, and I don't think that their health needs are being met by the county. More importantly, how many more social workers have been assigned to this area today? Because what we know for an absolute fact, coming from the circumstances around Gabriel, is we don't have enough.
We don't have enough social workers across the county. We have asked the Board of Supervisors, and it is a big ask and unlikely to be granted because of the sheer cost for 1,000 social workers. But we have recently, I believe, hired 50. We're in the process of redeploying them, and we are hiring in the near future, I believe, 100 more.
I'm sorry. We need 1,000 more, they gave you 50?
We have asked for 1,000. We have gotten 50. We're getting 100 more. Social workers are expensive. This is an area that is undervalued and underfunded.
How many did we get?
I don't know.
I mean, I wish I could be concerned about the rest of the county.
Plan. I didn't come prepared with that info, but it's easy for me to find out.
We would appreciate knowing that.
Absolutely.
And we'd also appreciate knowing what is the recommended number.
Yes.
All right?
Thank you.
Mr. Nichols, if you had a wish list, even though that the incidents with Gabriel didn't happen in Lancaster, if you had a wish list, what would you want from the city of Lancaster to help you?
Engagement between our social workers and the community is critical. We need to know when children are in need of help, when families are in need of help. We need resources to refer those children and families to. Churches, community-based organizations, therapists, mental health counseling, drug and alcohol counseling, all of those resources we need access to and we need a partnership with. Most importantly, though, is the child abuse hotline. If somebody sees a child that they think may be the subject of abuse or neglect, we need them to call the hotline so that we can engage with the family. Another issue, though, that we have struggles with, both in this community specifically, but across the county, is parents willing to foster our children. When a child can't be safely maintained in the home, we need another family to step in and take that child into their home until we can repair the relationship between the originating family and the child.
Are
It's a critical need.
Are your social workers working with our faith-based community as far as with our community homes?
I know that they are, but we can always work better. That is the truth. And if you have resources available, or if someone's listening to me now and potentially could serve as a resource, again, I would urge you and them to contact us.
You know, the other thing I want to clarify is, our supervisor, Mike Antonovich, has been sounding the alarm about this situation for a long time. This isn't the first time your department has been not requested, but demanded to take corrective action. What are you doing different this time?
Well, that was the very topic that was addressed at the Board of Supervisors today. That's why the Director, Philip Browning, couldn't be here, because he had to meet with our board, with Supervisor Antonovich.
Aren't you lucky?
On that issue. Yeah, it was my turn on the wheel. Well, I will say I have some connections to the community, and it's got a special place in my heart, so I'm actually was glad it was me that came up. But that said, the Blue Ribbon Task Force is going to be a notable difference. It is a tool that the board has used in the context of the jails, and they have seen substantive changes and reform. It's now our turn to engage with the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Supervisor Antonovich has had a role in that.
Okay. I just want to be clear. We have found his reaction to this to be incredible from years ago. I mean, this has always been a priority for him.
Great attention and great leadership around our department and our issues.
Okay, great. Just so we're clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's take a break, and then we'll be back, okay? Wait a minute, what? Oh, so we have speaker cards? Okay. I think I know that by now. Sorry, hold on. You guys may want to listen to the speakers, okay? All right. Robert Fernandez?
Yeah, Coach, I'd like to make one statement.
Yes.
The Honor's made some specific statements about county council that were disparaging in nature and concerning. So,
Rather than accurate?
if there's anything that, well, I'll be facetious, they are inaccurate. So if you would like to put something in writing that we can address, I'd be more than happy to do so. We have a job to perform. As you know, the statutes are very specific about the degrees of proof that have to be met at various stages of the proceedings. The social workers are not attorneys. They have to be advised as to the amount of evidence necessary to meet the burdens required. So we do have a job to perform. But if there's something that you have that's that's of a negative nature that you would like us to address.
You know exactly the case I'm talking about. You know exactly the case, don't you?
Well,
You know the case of the neurosurgeon in this community where you took her children for over 14 months, and where we got the emails between your office and the coroner's office where he was pretty much being directed as to what to say.
I don't believe it's
where the
appropriate.
doctor from USC came and testified and said, I told county council that this...
I indicated if
You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
send something specifically.
Okay, you know specifically what I'm talking about. Your whole department knows what occurred,
Statements
and you did nothing.
pertaining to other cases. So
Yeah, you see, that's where the secrecy thing comes in. You see, right now, if I tell you anything more, I get to go to jail for revealing it. Those laws are designed to protect you, not our children. Isn't that true?
no, the statutory scheme.
Then what did you do about it? What did you do about
The
it?
scheme indicates under 300.2 it's to protect children, and that's our purpose, and that's what we do.
Well, obviously, you realize our concern as to how well you're doing that job. Sherry Martin?
Wait a minute, Robert.
Oh, that's not...
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up, Robert.
I want to thank everybody for being here. I don't want to be here. I'm the grandfather of Gabriel. I'm also his parent. I had him for 8 years.
I'm so sorry.
2 weeks ago, the welfare department came to my house with allegations that my daughter, 17-year-old daughter, was being molested by an uncle, which is not true. From day one to this time, I've not heard any attorney, welfare, sheriffs, anybody come tell me anything about the case. The hotline doesn't work because my wife tried calling that before my son got murdered. I'm here to voice my grandson and the others that fell through your system of DSS, Welfare Department, and Sheriff's Department. And for those that haven't got caught doing a simple job or investigation as to look to see for any bruising, cuts, or etc., I would not be here today telling you about my grandson and others being abused or murdered, instead of maybe, in my daughter's and boyfriend's case, only abused. I really think that the whole system, and especially those that got fired or just simple desk assignments, I think they ought to be prosecuted, thrown in jail, just as my daughter and the boyfriend are. I thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Martin?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I have parents of murdered children of the Antelope Valley. I have been helping Robert. I have a question. If any of us had a child in danger, where our child was in a dangerous position, I would be yanked up, thrown in jail, and convicted of child endangerment. Now, Mayor, I heard you speaking about those social workers. Yes, there are some good ones, but you also said that they all should speak in one voice. I totally...
No. I said that's what they're required to do.
Well, in a sense, I think that's good. When you see one worker, you should be seeing everyone should be on the same page. You can give a worker a situation and have 4 of them, 5 of them come and look at it, and you'll get, oh my God, or you'll get, no big deal. And with Gabriel, the neighbors reported it, the teacher reported it. Robert took pictures and gave pictures. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Browning should be fired. We're talking about people that have got major education. They have master degrees. I don't understand why the system fails. And it hasn't just failed here. About 3 weeks ago, there was a little toddler. I don't remember what city, but it was down below. The doctor reported a suspicious break. Social services said, oh, he's okay. A week later, that child was dead by the hands of the father. Children do not have any victims' rights. Mr. Mayor, if I came up and punched you in the face, I would be arrested. I would be put in jail. You would have a restraining order against me. Why doesn't a child have that same right? I really respect Supervisor Antonovich. I think he's an amazing man. I'm very much opposed to this blue panel thing. They already have a special unit that was put up in 2008. What good's it done? How many children have been murdered since then under the care of social services? I have a lot more to say, but my time's up.
Thank you. M. Pearson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, City Manager. First and foremost, my condolences to Gabriel's grandparents and all other family members and loved ones. You are in my prayers. I want to thank the courageous teacher that came forward and asked others to do when they see real abuse. Thank you to the Mayor and the City Manager for this forum. This is an important issue to the community. Thank you to Mike Antonovich and the Blue Ribbon Commission. I wish this were done years ago when community members like myself were coming forward with concerns. Internal investigations by Department of Children and Family Services result in nothing. The state legislature needs to get involved. This is much bigger than Gabriel. This is an ongoing thing. The social workers are overstaffed, and one of the reasons why is because a large percentage, some say as high as 70% of the children that are taken out of the homes are done so because of false reporting. A non-custodial parent or grandparent or other interested party will make a false allegation to the DCS so they can get custody of that child to use later in family court. A lot of times, I think the majority of times, and the county has admit that child is placed with the person that reported. They are then given thousands of dollars to house that child and abused in those situations. What I'm alleging is they're taken out of safe homes and to put into unsafe homes. Now, for every one of those children, that's one less social worker that can focus on real abuse. The county is aware of it. DCFS is aware of it. And they've covered it up for years. The reason why they don't tape the reports is because the child's statement will conflict with the written report later, Mayor.
No, I know that. I know that.
Okay. Now, I would like to ask the Department of Children and Family Services right here.
You don't get to do that. I'm sorry.
Oh.
You got to.
Okay. Let me ask you, Mr. Mayor. What percentage of the children that are taken are from false accusations?
I don't think anybody has any idea.
Okay.
But you got to remember, it's incentivized to do that.
Right. Why we don't have any idea?
I'm going to give you more time.
Yeah.
You know, how the system works.
I want it.
Yeah, is every time they take a child, they get money from the federal government. You know, I'm not casting aspersions on people for that. What I'm saying is we've created a system that is incentivized to fail. Because when you have social workers that are taught to write the facts in a certain way to get a certain result, why are we surprised that may have occurred in Gabriel's case, just to avoid having to investigate it appropriately? You know, I don't know that that's what happened, but I know that's certainly the rumors going around, is that there was reports that never actually were done. But if you teach people to do that, why would you be surprised that you are now the victim of that? You know, if there is one area of our government that should be scrupulously honest, it has to be children's services. I mean, there should be very real consequences when the child's statement conflicts with what the report says. You know, and that is exactly why they're not taping it, is because there is no accountability.
Yes, sir. And there should also be consequences against those who knowledgeably and purposefully make false reports that result in those children being taken. Certainly, they shouldn't be rewarded with thousands of dollars, our taxpayers' dollars, that the county gives. But those people
we're incentivizing people to lie.
But those people should be charged with a felony. Now, I hope the people that were directly responsible for Gabriel's death are put in prison forever and can never hurt another kid again. But I hope that the people that were indirectly responsible for his death, without naming names, are fired, and some of them go to jail too, with the main thing being that...
Wait a minute. We are responsible for Gabriel. The government, the city, county, all of us at the top, we are responsible for Gabriel. We know this system's broke. We know this system is failing children. How dare we point to the social worker? How dare we do that? We are accountable for what happened to this child. And it's a disgrace that we're allowed to point the finger to the people that their own testimony is, we need 1,000 more, and they gave them 50. I mean, come on. Let's put the accountability where it lies.
I'm not blaming the social workers. They are overburdened with 4 or 5 times as many cases. Who I'm blaming is in part the state legislature for not passing laws making it illegal for someone to make a false report, therefore tying up those social workers, with 5, 6, 7 times as many cases as they need, while the Gabriels are falling through the cracks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Michael Reeves.
Mayor Paris, council, ladies and gentlemen, Gabriel's grandparents, on behalf of the people of Lancaster, I want to tell you we are so sorry, very, very sorry, and we share in your grief. I have a lot of experience working in the juvenile court system. I worked for the juvenile court schools. I had a privilege to meet many young people. Some of them had been taken out of their homes, and I could never figure out the circumstances. I thought that was the environment in the homes must have been so tremendously horrible for these children to be taken out. I've also worked 2 police divisions and Explorer Scouts. I was head of security for a private college, so I've worked a lot with young people. We have a system that is overwhelmed. It reminds me of a comment, and some of you may know this man. His name was Bob Finch. He was Lieutenant Governor of California. He was Secretary of Health and Housing Development. Richard Nixon wanted him to be Vice President with him. Bob said once, we have these things in place. We have the system in place, but it's being overwhelmed by people. And he's got a good point. We have all these things in place, but it doesn't work when you have 35,000 clients and 15,000 of them have been taken out of their homes. How can you handle that? So what do? Do we go get tangled up into bureaucracy, or do we take the initiative and do something about it? And I call on this council to take the initiative and do something about this. And what we're going to have to do is say goodbye to the County of Los Angeles. Again and again, the county has let us down on the sanitation district, probation, everything. We're upset with the sheriff about some of the way they're running their department. I think it's time that we consider withdrawing from the county, starting our own county, and facing these issues ourselves. Let's just don't get tangled up in this further perpetuation of bureaucracy. We can take the initiative as citizens. We can form our own county. We can take care of things ourselves, and we don't have to put up with this type of bureaucracy, because it's not going to change. It's going on all over this country until the citizens of this country realize that we're getting tangled up in this bureaucracy. This civilization is going to go down. The citizens have to take the initiative, and we can take the initiative by forming our own county, the county of Antelope Valley. I know it's going to be difficult. You're going to find people that are against it, but it's the only way that we're going to solve some of these problems if we take the initiative ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Okay, that's it. Let's take 10. Thank you. Jerry, you ready? You guys ready back there? This is Jerry Dominguez. Jerry Dominguez is one of the DCSF workers, social workers that I was telling you about, who has brought this to my attention. And now he, after hearing what occurred, he's willing to talk to you. But why don't you flip the mic and face them and give them an indication of what you told me. Here, they'll do that for you. Flip the mic back so he can, okay.
I came here today not because this is something easy or simple, something that I really want to do. In fact, I have a lot of fear. But I'm coming here today as a member of this community. I've lived in Antelope Valley 30 years. I've been a concerned citizen of this community for 30 years. I have family, friends. I've raised my children here. I'm a father of 4, 2 adoptive sons. And I've seen what's happened in my community and with the department that I care deeply about, DCFS, and the colleagues that I work side by side and care deeply about. There's a larger picture that's not being talked about, that's being missed and not even discussed. The social workers grieve incredibly for the loss of the child that just died. They lose sleep. They worry. They're afraid for what could happen to other family members on caseloads that they're working on. There's a story about the social workers and what goes on in the lives of the social workers as they try to provide service to the families that's not discussed. The caseloads, they're twice as large as they should be based on independent audits done as early as 2000 by a state audit that said that our caseload should be 14, and they're teeter-tottering at 30 to 35 and larger. There are issues concerning the welfare of the staff, a healthcare crisis that's gone on for as long as any of us can remember. We have social workers that are experiencing strokes, dying of heart attacks, PTSD, depression. I'm a licensed clinician, and I see concerns, medical issues, somatic complaints, diseases, all from the workload and the stress of the job and the failure of the agency, the system of our community to address the welfare of the very workers that we depend on to help ensure the safety of our children and families. The workers care no less about the families and the families or the communities. They're part of the communities. Their children live there, go to school there. They grieve when kids are lost or hurt or abused. Social workers don't become social workers to get rich or for fame or celebrity. They come into this profession because they care. They're deeply concerned. They're empathic. They want to make a difference in the lives of families. But when they come into the system and all of a sudden they have to face the reality of a workload that's inhuman, of staffing that's absolutely impossible to manage, of ratios of referrals and cases to workers that nobody can really do. Add the problems with staffing, the caseloads, to their own impact in doing this work that we know as vicarious trauma. You add all of that together, and that's a recipe for disaster year after year after year. I know the temptation during a time like this with a tragedy that's this serious and significant is to simply take our anger, our rage, our sadness, and assign blame to an individual. But as the mayor suggested earlier, if we do that, we miss the bigger picture. We don't unpack the larger story. We don't address the real issues of workloads that are absolutely inhuman. staffing problems that there is no way anybody can do the job. And if you're a caring person, trying your best, but you're told you have to do twice as much as you can and be accountable when something happens, even though you can't possibly do the workload you're given, and no changes, no meaningful changes are taking place with the staffing problems that we've had for years, for as long as I've been here, the 18 years, and as long as any of our social workers can remember. If we don't address those larger issues, how do we hope to ever provide the service that we all desperately want to provide to our communities, to the families, to our neighbors, to our friends? It's our children at stake too, because they live in the communities. We want them safe too. We don't want them harmed. Workers sacrifice their own time with their families, their own relationships. They sacrifice their own self-care. And they're ending up with depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, miscarriages, death by heart attack. These are the realities, and this is the state of child welfare in this system. So if we don't look at this larger picture, this greater story, this more complicated story, and address those issues, we're never going to resolve this and deal with it in a way that we need to. And the need is now. It's immediate. We can't wait any longer. We have to look at the more complicated picture of the staffing, the workload, the impact on the worker, so that we can have a sustainable workforce that can provide the service that we all want and need and deserve in support of our families, our children, our neighbors, our friends. I come here to let you know because no one is telling you. The social workers are going to bed crying, waking up, throwing up before they go to work because of their anxiety. Having to choose between work or survival. Being told by their doctors, you can't afford to work there anymore because your health is at risk. This is happening. I'm not hearing that story in the media. And
Mr. Dominguez, I have a question for you.
Yes.
It was reported earlier that the county council pressures people to change their reports. Can you talk on that?
It's been said in our community, DCFS, that it's a culture of fear. It is absolutely a culture of fear. Social workers often, too often, aren't provided the space, the support to simply report what they see and observe and make recommendations based on those direct observations on what they actually see and hear. There is fear to do that. There is fear that it may run contrary to positions that are taken above them. By the agency, we're told to speak with one voice. And if you say anything contrary to that one voice, if there's any dissent, wow, what could happen? All social workers want to do is simply try to support and help families to the best of their ability and be able to say that this is what I saw, this is what I heard, and based on my direct observations, this is what I recommend. At this point, they don't have the freedom to do that across the board.
Mr. Dominguez, have you specifically been told by county council to change your report?
I have not specifically been told to do that, but I have felt pressure. I have felt extreme pressure to take what I've seen and what I hear and not allow that to drive the recommendation. To submit something that was, by its very design, inconsistent, because I wasn't allowed to simply say exactly what I saw and what I heard and allow the recommendation to represent that, because we're afraid. And the fear isn't just with social workers, it goes up and down the system. It's not just social workers, it's supervisors, it's managers. Unless we deal with that culture of fear that frees all of us simply to say what we actually see and hear, simply to represent the actual facts as we know them to the best of our ability, then those are the larger issues and problems that aren't going to be addressed, and we're not going to resolve this.
Mr. Dominguez, are you allowed to tape record your interviews with the parents so that you can accurately reflect the interview?
When I was working on the line, I was never told that I was allowed or disallowed. It simply wasn't the practice. It simply isn't the practice.
Wouldn't you agree that that would be a more accurate representation of what really went on in those households?
I don't understand why that would be a problem. Why would it be a problem if it can be done in a way that does not in any way jeopardize the health, welfare, and safety of the client, of the child or the family? Because in no way do we want to violate their confidentiality or do anything to worsen their position, because obviously they're struggling with serious issues that we're hoping to in some way alleviate or help support. So if it can be done, if anything that can be done to help this system become less afraid and more able to simply represent our families and children in the way that we're dying to represent them, with a feeling of support from our own agency, from our communities. Because this isn't just an agency, this is a community issue. Can you think of a more important job than the safety of our own children and our families? Can you think of a greater need for resources, time, and energy, and open, transparent discussions? This Blue Ribbon Commission, how many social workers are going to be on it? How many people that actually do the job? How many people that are actually going home at night and not being able to sleep for weeks because they're worried about a child or their family, or their inability to provide a service because they can't humanly take care of the other 200 people they're trying to see and follow up on and write reports for? We need to have people that are actually doing this job in any thoughtful discussion that's going to make a difference. If we're going to unpack the larger issues, the bigger story, to address them in a way that we can really make a difference and have meaningful change. Because to just assign blame to one person, that's not going to solve this. It's not going to come close to even addressing this. We got to deal with that issue of fear that prevents us from having a voice. This room should be filled with social workers because they care deeply. I'm afraid I'm going to walk out and not have a job tomorrow. Why? It's a public hearing. This is my community. I care about this community. You're my friends and neighbors. And I can't talk and share my concerns. But I am afraid.
How long have you been with the department?
18 years.
Thank you. Tell me about the role of county council in regards to the investigation itself. Are they allowed to drive the facts at all?
I don't want to impugn the motives of any person.
I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to tell me what occurs.
I understand that. When I was a line worker and I was writing reports, oftentimes it was unclear as to what was driving the outcome of the report and the recommendations. It wasn't clear if it was coming from this body, our legal representation, or one level or two level or three levels above me. So to answer your question, sometimes it's unclear where the driving force is. It's just clear that it isn't in the hands of the social worker to the extent that it should be with the person who actually sees the human beings, works with the families, sits down with the children, using their education, their instinct, their training, their years of experience. It isn't enough with those human beings. And if we're going to have other people involved in the reports to the extent that recommendations reflect their point of view, then let's have those individuals sign the report and represent it in court. Let's have them stand up. Let's not send that poor social worker that says, you know what, this is not exactly what I'm seeing and hearing. It doesn't really represent my point of view. So can you please relieve me from this responsibility? Since you seem to have a strong feeling, you represent it. Doesn't that make sense? Maybe it's just me, but that seems to be common sense. Don't have that poor social worker stand on the podium in front of a judge and say, I swear. If that's not what they really feel and think and observed. And I'm not saying that happens in all cases. It clearly doesn't. We have great supervisors. We have great administrators and managers that want, like myself and so many of us, just to be freed from the fear, to do our job, to care about families, to support families, to care about children, to prevent abuse, to try to make a difference. That's why we come here. That's why we've dedicated our careers. Just free us to do that without the fear of retaliation. Try to trust in what we're saying and not marginalize it, diminish it. And if some of us need training, then give us that training, but allow us to do the job. Allow us to represent what we've seen. The courts need the facts. If they don't get the facts, untainted by bias, untainted by potential prejudice and subjectivity that has nothing to do with direct knowledge, then that's what has to be set aside. I don't know how we get past the fear. I don't know why there aren't more social workers standing up at a community forum on their own time and exercising the right to peaceful assembly and free speech. Why do we feel that that's suddenly abridged because we work with DCFS? We don't have the right to free speech? I don't have the right to say something to share a concern? Not to put someone down.
Have you seen social workers who were retaliated against for speaking out?
We've all experienced social workers experiencing pressure, retaliation for sharing a different point of view, for having a dissenting opinion. We've all seen workers say, well, if you don't represent this position, well, that's insubordination or potential insubordination. Could you imagine the position that you're put in when you're told that you cannot represent something based on your conscious and direct observation, but if you run contrary to, if you don't do as I say, it's insubordination, but I have a family they have to eat? I've got to support my family. I can't lose this job. I'm the sole provider. I've got little children. Could you imagine the bind that you're in? Those are the larger stories that aren't being talked about, that won't be discussed. And I'm not saying this because I'm stopped being afraid. I'm terrified. I talked to my family, friends, and I said, hey, and they support me. I guess if I can't eat tomorrow, they'll provide me with food and shelter. But I can't watch another social worker crash and burn. I can't see another social worker develop depression and post-traumatic stress disorder and tell me, Jerry, I'm afraid I won't live through the end of the month. I'm already experiencing symptoms of a heart attack. I can't hear that anymore. I can't know that and not say something.
Mr. Dominguez, we have Norm Hickling from the supervisor's office. And Norm, if you could tell us what you're prepared to do to make certain he's not retaliated against.
I'll be glad to. I think the first start, and Mr. Mayor, you had indicated before the years that... Talk to the cameras. Okay.
Let's be honest about it.
On the mayor before. So the supervisor, the first step that the supervisor has taken is this Blue Ribbon Commission. These are going to be 2 appointees by each of the supervisors, and they are, and the vision that the supervisor had in setting this up and making this recommendation is so stories and information and feedback from all parts of the system, and each caseworker is a critical part of that system, gets into a commission outside of the Board of Supervisors, outside of the department management, because there's part of the Sheriff's Department is a component to this, the neighbor and the community is a component to it, so you got that assurance. You're going to be heard, okay? I'm not going to tell you because I can't, because that's a personnel issue, and the supervisor does not have that authority just to say yay or nay. But I know he has been dedicated for years, if not decades, to the well-being of our children in our community. He appreciates the tough and difficult task that you have as a caseworker, and he wants to hear what's going on. And I'm going to give you my card, and something starts happening, I expect you're going to give me a call, whether it's tomorrow or next week or next month. And then we'll go from there. That you have my promise on behalf of the supervisor.
I certainly hope that the press tracks Mr. Dominguez, that a year from now you're asking, is he still there? You know, it's what we see it 100 different ways. 3 months from now, when you guys have gone, the cameras have shut down, is Mr. Dominguez going to be safe? And what I would hope from the people in the press is that they keep asking that question over the next year or two. What's happened to Mr. Dominguez? Because he has been there 18 years, a good employee, and it takes incredible courage to come up here and do this. Hopefully he will spur a change in the system, but hopefully you will take your part in protecting him also. Now, we really have to take a break because we need to take a break. Thanks. We're back. On the agenda items, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
Thank you. Motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second? Voice vote?
Aye.
Passes. On the council consent calendar, I have a conflict due to a tangential economic interest at best.
Protecting you, Mr. Mayor.
And a skittish city attorney on items CC4, CC5, and CC6.
And I also need to recuse myself from CC7 because of the property is about 500 feet from the Pioneer Event Center, which I own.
So if we could have a motion.
So we're going to pull CC4, CC5, CC6, and CC7. I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as currently comprised.
I will second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay, I'm going to leave the room while you do 4, 5, and 6.
Okay, I need a motion to approve CC4, CC5, and CC6. We have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Motion passes 3-0.
I've assumed the chair again. Do we have a motion on CC7?
Second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous with Sandra Johnson recusing herself. Somebody asked Sandra to come back, and she's back. New business. Any speaker cards?
And no speaker cards. Motion to approve JNB1.
I'll second that.
That's resolution number 13-26.
Let's vote. It's unanimous with Mr. Smith absent.
And make a motion to adopt resolution 1327.
I second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous.
And adopt resolution SA 06-13.
I will second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous.
And adopt resolution SA 07-13.
I second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay, JNB 2 is...
No speaker cards?
Is there, you want to waive the...
Waive the reading. I'll move that we adopt Resolution 13-28.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Let's vote. Passes unanimously.
And adopt Resolution SA 08-13.
I second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Moving on to continued business item number 1. Are there any speaker cards?
We do have 2 speaker cards.
We will hear from Mr. Bozigian.
Actually, Mayor Paris, if it's okay, we're going to hear from Barbara Boswell. We gave the presentation of the public hearing last time, and she can update you on the item before you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, Deputy Mayor Harvey, and Deputy Mayor Zato. It's my pleasure to present before you the resolutions that are required in order to adopt the budget. We did hold a public hearing at our last regularly scheduled meeting, at which time there was a full presentation and opportunity for the public to make comments on the budget. The budget that is before you today, there have been a few changes that are recommended. Those are based on new information that we have gotten since the public hearing in terms of new grants that we have or adjustments to move staff from one funding source to another to make better use of available funds. There are a number of different actions that we are asking the City Council to take with the adoption of the budget. The first is adoption of a resolution that actually adopts the budget. The budget will be effective on July the 1st, and we'll set out our spending plan for that fiscal year. We are also required by law to adopt a resolution that sets the appropriations limit for the fiscal year. The proposed budget is well within the legal appropriations limit as it was calculated by law. We have a resolution that makes adjustments to our compensation schedule. And then we also are requesting the council make some minor adjustments to our current year 12-13 budget. It is customary as we near the end of the fiscal year to review any needs that have come up as a result of priorities or goals established by council that maybe weren't anticipated in the budget originally. Those are included as well. And we are also asking the council to adopt a resolution that formalizes the loans that have made from the general fund to our building fees fund over the past several years. As development has slowed and construction has slowed, there hasn't been sufficient revenues raised to cover the cost of the expenses in that fund. We recommend that we formalize those loans so that when development does turn around, the general fund does have the opportunity to be repaid those loans. And last but certainly not least, as you're aware, the city attorney, Dave McEwen, announced his retirement. And as a result of that, we do need to make arrangements for a city attorney. We didn't have to look very, very far to find someone who is well qualified to take that spot, and that is Allison Burns. Included in the budget documents is an amended agreement with straddling Yaka Carlson Routh that would appoint Allison Burns as the city attorney. In addition to that, we're recommending in the contract that there also be a deputy city attorney that would be assigned full-time to City Hall and provide better services and availability to us during the day, during working hours. That does conclude my presentation. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
How long is the contract?
That is a very good question.
Terminable on 30 days' notice.
I would have negotiated a better contract than that.
I think one of the things that we're really excited about is that our deputy city attorney is going to physically be here during the week, and that'll be very helpful for us. So thank you for doing that.
It's actually a little better than that, because what she's going to do is she's going to open it up. think they had figured out after 5 years. Anyway, what we're looking for is there are people in the profession who have decided to raise their families, and because they couldn't, do a 50, 60-hour-a-week job. We're hoping that some of them will apply and maybe get 2 people so that they can fulfill their goals in regards to raising a family, but at the same time can continue on in their profession as attorneys. And we're going to be extremely flexible. And hopefully those are local people. But, I'm taking this opportunity to extend that invitation. Anybody listening to this, if you know somebody that fits that criteria, we'd be interested in talking to them. Good. It's an excellent opportunity. Good. Okay, thank you. Jason Zink. Haven't seen you in a while.
Hurt my ankle trying to show kids how to run along the top of a wall. I just can't do it anymore, I guess. But
we shouldn't.
Yeah, I should. Used to go really fast. But my main concerns is the budget thing. I saw you on Channel 3 last night, and you said that sidewalks aren't really a city's responsibility. It's more the developer. But I disagree with that statement, and that's why I really wanted to come today. I think it is the city's biggest responsibility for public safety, because I think they go in key and key. Also for lifestyle and for livability of a community. My sister and my mother live off of 20th Street East and Avenue K, and there are no bikeways or sidewalks on one side of the street. And there's ruts all through that road there. And I called the Public Works Department, it was one of your in development, and there was no plans whatsoever to improve that road. And I always thought that 20th and Avenue J were the regional spot for East Lancaster. But yet there's no improvements. You have these big, Walmarts and Stater Brothers. You thought Home Depot could come and, bring all that, but that's not going to happen for some time. So I think that these roundabouts, I know some of them are grants and stuff, but it doesn't really cost that much money for temporary sidewalks, contrary to what you said. And not saying anything bad, but it's very cheap, sidewalks are. Asphalt sidewalks and making the bikeways wider on the streets are very inexpensive. It really is, and you can do a lot. We've spent over $300 million at the AV College, and we don't have sidewalks continuing from 30th to 40th Street just because the developer didn't finish putting houses. You can't tell me we can't throw down $20,000 to finish some sidewalks so people could have access safely and a bike lane. That's a no-brainer. We have schools that are built. We have parks, Hall Park, no sidewalks. This would never happen in the city of Santa Clarita. How does it happen in Palmdale and Lancaster that we have lower standards? I was curious about that. But a skateboard park. I've been hearing kids scream for a skateboard park. Why don't we have that in our budget or planning for it? So if a state grant or federal grant comes along, that we have it. Barbara Boxer is planning a big water act through Congress right now. Our representatives don't even know nothing about it. I talked to, we have a water bond measure on the November 2014 ballot. Our representatives don't know nothing about it. Steve Fox, Knight said that he doesn't even really associate with Steve Fox. Here we have a mayor who doesn't like mayor, senator that doesn't talk to the assemblyman, and then, it's just, we are broken up out here, and we need to come together, because this Cactus Curtain and all this stuff, and Visco, and, I always thought that they should name Division Street, Visco Way. Although he's created a lot of jobs and he's done a lot of good in this valley, he should get key to the city. But it's just, we need to do more. We need to come together as a community. And I'd like to see you guys do that, because I don't want to wait 10 more years, I've waited already 20 years for a community service district to combine the flood control, the water, the sewer. You guys can do it. You guys got a lot of power.
You're preaching to the choir.
Huh?
You're preaching to the
Let's
choir.
do it. Let's put on a ballot measure. Let's see if Junior can do it. The father put a ballot for flood control district with Art Wallace as chairman. Let's see if Junior could do something about it. I'd like to see it in my lifetime.
Thank you. Michael Reeves.
Mayor Paris, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen, I had occasion to review the budget. I thank the city clerk for loaning her copy so I could review it in the lobby, and thanks to the city manager and deputy city manager for sitting down with me and clarifying some things. Three things I want to comment on in 3 minutes. Contract out to another law enforcement agency. 2, elect city attorney. 3, turn over the public safety operations over to the sheriff's department. 4, do an audit of copy machine costs. First of all, the sheriff's department's projected cost is $21.5 million. We know that some positions have switched from detective to patrol temporarily. We know that the sheriff's department is still impacted by AB 109, and the governor is mandated to release more inmates, so that's going to create a problem. So it may be cheaper. If we're looking for dollars and cents, maybe we could contract out with Kern County. Maybe we can get more bang for our buck with Kern County Sheriff than we can with Los Angeles. Finally, when we negotiate a new contract with the Sheriff's Department, if they cannot provide us the officers, maybe they can assume the duties of the Public Safety Department of the City of Lancaster and save us $2 million. The second thing is about the city attorney. The city attorney costs us $1 million a year. How about electing a city attorney with a salary cap of $200,000 to start? We could have the city attorney and deputy city attorney for a lot less than $1 million a year. Number 3, as mentioned, turn over the public safety operations to the sheriff, because it costs us $2 million a year. If the sheriffs can't provide more deputies, then they can assume the public safety operations. And 4, I don't know why we discussed this, but I don't know why it costs $224,000 for copy machine costs. When we have computers, we can scan stuff, we have thumb drives, we have disk drives. We need to do an audit of that and see if we can cut that down. That's a lot of money, $224,000 a year for a copy machine cost. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. That is a lot of money. We'll talk.
Can I ask?
We'll talk later.
I have a good answer, though.
All right. You're dying to tell us.
Well, first off, I actually wanted to say it. We really did sincerely, Jason and I, appreciate Michael Rivas coming in. We had a great discussion. And what we're able to explain is it does include scanners and those things, but also in a full-service city with Public Works, you have exceptionally large printers where you have large documents that need to be printed in different sizes. I think our finance department's done an exceptional job of reducing our copy costs considerably over the last couple of years and upgrading our material. But, yeah, we'd be happy to sit down more with Mr. Rivas or anyone to go over it. We're proud of what we've done so far with our copy costs.
Thank you. Okay.
I have a question. One of the roundabouts is by my house. Do I need to pull that out? What do I need to do for that?
It's overall capital.
Yeah, this is an overall capital budget. It's not approval of the project itself. It's simply a budget. You need not recuse.
Okay. And can we do these all together, or do they have to be done separately?
Do them separately, please.
Okay. I'll move we adopt resolution number 13-29.
I'll second that.
You had to bring attention to the roundabout, didn't you?
I'm up for election. I don't want to be accused of being for it.
All right. Let's vote. It's unanimous.
I'll move that we adopt resolution number 13-30.
I second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous.
And we adopt resolution number 13-31.
Second.
Let's vote.
And we adopt Resolution 13...
Wait a minute. Don't be running over me. You're not a steamroller. It's unanimous. Go on.
And we adopt Resolution number 13-32.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous.
I'll adopt resolution 13-33.
Second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Let the record reflect that Mr. Christ voted for the roundabout.
For the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, F. Do we?
Oh, we missed one?
F, there's no.
Yes, please.
Oh.
That we approve the amended agreement for legal services.
I second.
Wait a minute. I thought we could get that for 20%.
Oh, you want to negotiate?
Is there a second?
Second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Okay. Council reports. What have you been doing, Marvin?
Mr. Reeves would like to talk to me about it.
Again? Come on.
Mayor Paris, council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. Well, once again, I go down 10th Street West, and I see people hiding behind telephone poles, buildings, trees, because they don't have a cover over the bus bench. And one solution is to go to the businesses in the community. AVTA can go to the businesses in the community and say, if you put a cover over this bus stop, and if you do, you can put a sign up advertising your business. I wonder if the AVTA board would consider doing that. Because here we are, the main boulevard in the city, and you have people hiding, waiting for a bus. It's a disgrace. Not only that, it's not helpful for them. They breathe in all the air, the bad air. They feel the sun, the cold. Why can't we have covers on our bus stops? Thank you.
Mr. Reeves, we finally agree. I mean, the heavens have opened. They have brought us into unanimity. I agree with you. Why don't we have covered bench buses? Better yet, why aren't they solar powered and air conditioned?
We're working on that.
Okay.
Things don't change overnight. We do have a contract to improve all of our bus stops. We're improving them. If you look, a good example is from the AVOIC at the hospital, the pull-out for the buses. We're trying to change that. We're doing some of the places where they do the road diet. We're making bus stops inside there. So we're changing everything. We have to change those stops, those locations, and the access before we mount the other stuff, because we want to do it effectively and efficiently for the money. Okay? So those are the reasons that we're looking at that. The executive director is looking at the air conditioning, solar-powered bus stops for the transportation centers, both Palmdale and Lancaster. They have them in Palm Springs, I believe.
Good. Thank you.
So we're making a lot of different changes. Our hybrid buses that we purchased, we're saving $8,123 per bus per month on just the fuel for them. So we're getting 2.5 miles per gallon better for the hybrid buses than that. We're also doing, we awarded a contract today to Avail Technologies for an intelligent transportation system. So within the transportation system, you'll be able to tell where your bus is at with a smartphone. So it'll tell you where it's at, how long till it gets to your actual bus stop. So we're making a lot of different changes over at AVTA, and I do have to thank Mr. Mann for what he's done. He did receive a commendation at ABTA today for his services that helped us bring the entire ABTA together, and for what he did, I really thank him for it. He has a specialty in bringing the entire community together, and it served the ABTA well.
And I'd like to follow up with that it was nice to see you being acknowledged for that, Councilmember Mann. And I agree with you, Vice Mayor, that Councilmember Mann is definitely one that brings people together and to reach that goal. And also like to say that we were able to vote for our new chair and vice chair today at a meeting. And I think the quote was mentioned that if it's not broken, let's not fix it. So we voted, and we have Norm Hickling as our chair and our vice mayor, Marvin Chris, as our vice chair. So we're very proud to say that. Excellent. You're doing a wonderful job. We thank you for that.
ABTA is doing well, and
very well.
We owe it to the entire community, and thank everybody for what they've done with it. It'll get better, and we're working on it, Michael.
Thank you. Assemblyman Fox sent us a text message. The enterprise zone is on the Senate floor. He thinks it will pass, which would be a huge, huge thing to accomplish. And he says he's not leaving the Senate until it does. So we may not be ever seeing Mr. Fox again. But, I really appreciate that level of communication. I mean, we'll forgive him for being a Democrat. Well, maybe not all of us will. I will. No. And speaking of Democrats, we have Linda Vasquez in the audience, who has almost single-handedly created a Facebook page of 1,000 people in the Antelope Valley that people actually communicate on. It was quite an accomplishment. Now, I used to be on it, but have since retired, but there's still I read it. It's a great community source of what's going on. And it's AV letters, right? Okay. Moving on. Lancaster Finance Authority, no action. Lancaster Housing, no action. Lancaster Power, no action. City Manager.
Just a few, and I don't typically do this, but on behalf of staff, we really do want to thank Vice Mayor Christ, Councilmember Mann, and Councilwoman Johnson. ABTA, from where it was a year and a half ago to where it is now, is just so much different, and I don't think people realize how much that took, the work involved. So thank you guys all for that.
They're no longer using their computers for child pornography, and they are stopped stealing the money, right?
And that's just the beginning of the improvement.
I hope you mean them.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
Also, on behalf of staff, we've had the pleasure of working with Allison for a long time. I don't think the public knows the city attorney reports directly to the mayor and city council, not through the city manager, and that's the way it should be. But she works with staff, and she's going to do an excellent job. We did find out something about her today we didn't know. She has a nickname that she's had since birth, Scrap Iron.
Scrap Iron.
So she...
you should have told me that when we were negotiating. You'd have got more money.
She'll serve the citizens well. Also, we had some folks come to a couple meetings ago for an all-way stop sign at 5th Street East in Kettering. They were talking about some of the unsafety they thought about the crossing during school. Happy to report that Robert Neal and his staff, Michelle Cantrell, went out, looked at what they can do, and there will be a 4-way stop installed there prior to the next school year. So I really want to thank Michelle, who took that on as a personal challenge and looked beyond just some numbers. She did a great job. And The 4th of July celebration will be on the 4th of July, obviously, next Thursday at the fairgrounds. For those that haven't been, it's not just about fireworks, the rodeo, the entertainment, the music, the food, the ability to spend time with people. It's an incredible event, and we hope people will go there. We've made some improvements this year in terms of parking, traffic flow, and we thank Vice Mayor Christ and the fair. It's a partnership with the fair. And last, I didn't ask the mayor this, but I don't know if we did a press release. If you want to mention about the great meeting we had with the CEC and how we really are on the map of the state, I think it's very important for people to know that.
The CEC is the California Energy Commission, and the chairman of the commission came and with a couple other people and had dinner at our house with the city staff and the vice mayor. It was actually the most productive meeting I think I've ever had as the mayor of this city. Wouldn't you say? I mean, we've had some pretty outrageous meetings with some, I mean, we've been all over the world with having meetings with some really interesting people. But as far as the future of the Antelope Valley, I thought this had the most potential. They were exciting to be with. I mean, it was an exciting dinner. I think that our dreams of being the solar capital of the world, we got a little closer to. And we'll continue to get closer to. And don't be surprised to see the governor come visit us. That will be, rather fascinating in and of itself. But we're definitely on the map. And I'm really grateful to them. I mean, they drove all the way down from Sacramento just to meet with us and see the city. I thought that was really cool. And they were nice people.
I thought they were, but when you stop and take a look at what the city of Lancaster has done as far as going and doing the street lights, doing the school districts, it's not just one thing that we've done. We've done a tremendous amount of work as far as making this alternative energy capital of the world.
Thank you. And, I keep telling people I get to take the credit, but we just have an incredible staff that is incredibly knowledgeable. And Robert was at the dinner, and, it's just like there isn't anything about energy he doesn't know. I mean, it's truly remarkable to watch him impress these people. It was nice. And you're so self-effacing about it, I mean, we got a lot in common like that, don't you think?
That's what they said the next day. Actually, what they said when we were embarrassed, they called Robert a rock star. He's never been referred to as a rock star before.
Is he turning red?
Feels good, though, doesn't it? All right. City Clerk.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time for any person to address the City Council on items that are not on the agenda. You'll find speaker cards at the back of the council chambers. We ask that you fill them out completely and be as concise as you can so that if the City Council, City Manager, or City staff needs to get in touch with you, they will have your information. As much as we appreciate your request to make comments before your 3 minutes begin, please understand your time begins when your name is announced. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. When you approach the podium, you'll see 3 lights. The green light comes on when your time begins. The yellow light comes on when you have 30 seconds remaining. And the red light comes on when your time is up. We ask that you be considerate of the allotted time to allow other speakers to have their 3 minutes as well. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter will be referred to the City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Martin? She left. Joy Hearn? Hi, how are you?
How are you? I'm here to speak about the gang activity in my neighborhood. There was a recent double homicide I'm sure you all were familiar with a couple of days ago. One of the victims was my next-door neighbor. And I'm actually here to express my dissatisfaction with the Sheriff Department. I personally have made several calls pertaining to this victim who was murdered, who was, to my knowledge, a blood gang member. There was an incident on June 8th where I called law enforcement, and the dispatch called and told me that the deputy was unfamiliar with my area. I informed them that I heard a child screaming. And then they said, would you still like us to come? So I'm just asking that you guys, we're discussing, you guys did a wonderful job in discussing DCFS, but I also think the law enforcement needs to be scrutinized here. And we can build and pave as many roads and make improvements and do all those things, but if we don't address this gang issue here, none of that is going to matter. Thank you for your time.
Wait a minute, before you go, I want date and time that she called the department. I want that investigated, and I want to hear the tape. All right? We'll look into that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. M. Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, staff, and scrap iron.
Don't go. We got to get that information from. Okay, good.
I wasn't sure whether the mayor wanted me to speak during the presentation or this, so I signed up for both.
I loved it. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Come back again.
Jerry said that you would, and she was right. So bingo. Mr. Mayor, real quick. To address the gang members, the Sheriff's Department is here now. They spend a lot of time and energy with assisting the DCFS on a lot of their files that shouldn't even be there. They could be working on these gangs. But isn't crime down in Lancaster significantly?
Not enough.
And
answer. You're up for election, aren't you?
You know, the problem we're having is the gang activity is there's a resurgence of it.
Okay.
You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not all that upset when gang members get blown away. It's just I think we should be the ones blowing them away instead of the starting a gang war. But I want those people out of my community any way we can get them out of our community. The Bloods are a vicious, vicious scourge on this community. Now, obviously, I don't want them shooting each other, but we could do a better job of removing them. And it seems like there's a resurgence, and we'll deal with it.
Okay. Yeah, we need to stay ahead of that because I know that crime in general is down, and the sheriffs, have done a great job with that, and also community members. I encourage my fellow community members to get re-involved with Neighborhood Watch, and a lot of times it's frustrating because we're feeling like that maybe we don't have the resources that we need. But I think that crime is the main function of the mayor and the city council, and everything else is secondary, including sidewalks.
Let me interrupt. That young woman that just spoke, that took a lot of courage. I mean, we're talking about the Bloods. There is nothing more vile. And for her to come up here and report that, we need to talk more to her. We need to recruit her a little more. But if all of us stood up to those gangs like she did, we wouldn't have gangs. Because they would feel the public contempt that we have for them.
This is our community.
That's right.
Not
That's
theirs.
Right. That's right.
And so, yes, that is courageous of her. And, I do welcome the mayor, taking up part of my time, and I think other council members should too.
Oh, you get
as well.
more time. It's
No.
okay.
I'm serious about this. I don't think I should just stand up here and talk. I think we should, have a dialogue, and I encourage others, to do that as well. Back real quick because I do want to close on the DCFS. Could the city of Lancaster, since this is new business, come up with a parents' rights hotline or some kind of a website where people had concerns that the DCFS was not reacting or overreacting, that they could contact the city about that, and maybe that would we wouldn't get into the problems that Palmdale has got into. You're not allowed to talk about Palmdale. In closing, Mr. Mayor, your dad and mine must have known each other, and I've never been in trouble with the law. He had a big stick, and I know that's child abuse now, but you either deal with your kids when they're little, I'm talking about appropriate spanking here, ladies, with your hand, not in anger ever, or the sheriffs can deal with it.
Oh, he was plenty mad.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Jason Zink.
Well, the problem with Gabriel, I think it's going to come down to technology. We're going to really have to come up with some kind of technology with a pad or something like that we can record things right away, get information out, and get witnesses. Because there's no way we're going to be able to hire 1,000 new people.
Boy, do we have a surprise for you.
Okay.
When are we reporting that? When are we revealing that?
In one of the 2 July meetings, likely July 23rd, we're going to have a full presentation on that.
We got a game changer coming.
Good, good. The other thing is I'd like you guys to also consider this year to resolve the Richard Dick Bakeman issue. And he's in the hospital right now, 106 temperature, and he really was hurt by the city with that hole in the sidewalk and stuff like that. Really did put him down. And I'd like you guys to help that old timer out and resolve that case. The other thing is, this, you guys on Channel 3, you said you were the innovative city or the intelligent city. I'd like you guys to also visit. Riverside is doing some remarkable things, and I'd love for you guys to go to the website, maybe send Jason down there and spend a day golfing or whatever, but really go down there and really see what they're doing. This is an exciting city.
I've been hearing what they're doing. Let's set that up. We ought to get a little envoy, go down there and see what they're doing, and exchange some ideas. Good idea.
Actually lower their rates for their citizens. They just don't sell them out.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by that?
I mean Palmdale selling, just selling their citizens out. Lancaster Boulevard. Why don't we have flowers when you first come on in front of AM/PM and that grass right there and stuff? Why is that?
We are operating with half the staff, half of what they were operating with in 2006. And I'd like to have flowers too. But what we're going to need to do is get some volunteer gardeners to take care of it. The days of us doing everything as a city for the citizens, they're over. You either take possession of this city, we're opening the doors, we're giving people the opportunity, and that should be the next project we work on. My wife's a gardener.
I don't mind. I'd volunteer to plant it, but maintenance, I think it'd be public safety issue, really. But the lawn, I'll plant lawn all day, no problem. I'm a farm boy.
I think that's a good idea. Let's work on that.
Don't forget about the Barbara Boxer water thing that's going on, and planting grass over there too. But if you go to Santa Cruz and you see the fountain clock tower, it is something else. It'd be a great asset for Lancaster. Also, the Prime Desert Woodlands. I really think if we can trade developer fees for that last 20 acres, we should do that this year before prices get. I'm telling you, land values have gone up, house values have gone up. Everything I sold a year ago is already doubled in price. So we're going to have more revenue.
Oh, it hasn't
into the city.
doubled.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. All the condos I've sold, they're all over doubled.
Really?
Yes. Also, on Saturday night, I was I've been sitting on the couch a lot. This ABC had an incredible dog challenge in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I thought, what a great thing to put on Heroes Park for a downtown event. They're great. Frisbee, they go around these poles, they jump into this water. Maybe be part of that or start our own thing and have a pet parade just for a weekend event for Lancaster. The other thing is the fireworks. I think you're wrong. I think you deprive kids of one of the greatest childhood memories I will ever have is lighting fireworks with my parents. And yeah, we all burn our fingers, but I loved it.
This year is what I was talking about.
And the other thing is community service district. We really need this. I'm asking you guys to do 20 years. This is the first step as a county. You have to take baby steps. But a community service district, if you take all the maps, if you take your office that you got available, and you put all the maps, all the census districts, zip codes, water districts, all these special districts, you put them on the map, you're looking at 1925, not 2013. If you do that for me, Mayor, and you look at that, you'll be amazed at the stuff you're like, this makes no sense whatsoever. Thank you guys for your time.
Absolutely agree. Okay. Thank you, Jason. Okay. Anyone else? No one has a burning desire? Oh, no, that's what I say in AA meetings. Sorry. All right. Any comments from the council?
I think we just want to talk a little bit about the Lancaster Jazz Festival that we had on the weekend of Father's Day with the fairgrounds. It was a hit. It was sold out by Thursday. 1,500 people showed up, and our deputy city manager was there and had a wonderful time enjoying the music. It is as if we even planned the weather. It was really, really nice. It was a beautiful... Yes, you did. Okay. It was a beautiful night for us to see different, of all ages. I mean, we had children there, and I think Deputy City Manager, you had seen that too with the children, and then we had senior citizens there. It didn't matter the race, it didn't matter religion, it didn't matter your financial status. That evening was truly an example of what the City of Lancaster is about, which is being one. Everyone was hugging people, exchanging phone numbers, becoming neighbors. We had people that came to visit from Orange County, from Bakersfield, all other areas, and they were complimenting the City of Lancaster, how friendly we all were, how proud we all were of our community. We even had Bonnie James, when he performed, he took us aside later on and said, let me know when to come back, because this is the best town. I have felt so welcomed. And everyone here was just so proud. So it was really rewarding to see that and to enjoy the weather that you had for us, Mayor, also. That was wonderful. We appreciate that very much.
that up special.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mozigan, can you tell us the difference from the 4th of July at the fairgrounds? What's going to take place as far as the ingress and egress of the vehicles?
Sure. A lot of the issues last time were bottlenecks, which the deputy vice mayor, deputy city manager, someday maybe, deputy city manager and I have experienced firsthand angry people. So what's happened, and it's our good work of our Parks Department, Jason, and our Public Works Department, we're essentially going to make sure that you have no choice when you come out but to go in different directions. You can come out without stopping, go straight through the intersection of 23rd and Avenue H. You could be forced right or you could be forced left. It gets people out of the parking lot, which was the bottleneck, and then from there there'll be volunteers, deputies, and everything in each of the each of the intersections to make sure that people are moved to a point where they can then go where they are. Also, CHP is on notice for the off-ramps from it's K to G, I think, or H or G, to make sure that there's no bottlenecks there. And then the fairgrounds itself will have extra people in the parking lots themselves to direct people out. So we should have a much better time getting people in and out. Also, the Jethawks are not in town that day, which should help a little bit with the traffic in that area, but will bring more people to the fairgrounds.
Thank you.
And I have to say, too, the fairgrounds has been an exceptionally good partner from the board to their executive director to everyone. It's been seamlessly working with them on everything from traffic to the event.
It's amazing what a JPA will do, isn't it?
And it's done well.
It actually is.
It's done well. And we also met with Cal Water today. The mayor did tell them that they need to lower the rates to find a way to work with the citizens. We have 588 citizens that receive their water from Cal Water. It's 3 times the cost of anyone else across the street, and they're asking for a 60% rate increase. I was really impressed with the mayor today, expressing to them the desire and how we want them to lower those people's rates. And finally, I have to say that I'm very, very grateful to the mayor for what he did. I believe it was last Friday, as far as sending the olive branch to Palmdale. And how he did it, it was very, very good. And let's hope they take us up on it.
Good luck. I don't think that water board's going to send me any Christmas cards. Okay, the vice mayor will be acting mayor on 4th of July. I will be running with the Bulls in Spain, and hopefully I'll be back.
Don't trip.
Are you really running with the Bulls?
Yeah, my sons are doing it, and so I decided to go with them and run.
Wow.
I mean, why look like Hemingway if you haven't run with the Bulls, right? Doesn't it make sense?
That's amazing.
So it'll be fun. So you might be seeing the new mayor within a week. Okay. We are going to conference with legal counsel over anticipated legal litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2, 3 potential cases. Conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9A. And for those of you who want to wait around to see us close the meeting, we'll be back. Thank you.
Regarding anticipated litigation, 1 potential case, Government Code Section 54956.9D2.
Okay. Ms. Zato.
The Housing Authority meeting is adjourned until Tuesday, July 9th, 2013 at 5 p.m.
The City Council meeting is adjourned until Tuesday, July 9th, 2013 at 5 p.m. Have a safe and happy 4th of July. And Carol, I'm going to come watch your yoga class on the boulevard.